So a possible leak regarding the Nintendo Switch 2 games formats that Nintendo is making available seems to potentially give us some information of maybe why so many third-party developers are opting for game key cards instead of actual just the full game on an actual cartridge or whatever else, you know, because again, if you don't know, a lot of third-party companies, you can actually see it at the bottom of many different third-party games box arts. I think Cyberpunk 2077 is one of the few third-party games on Switch 2 that's not opting for a game key card, but a lot of the other ones are, including Bravely Default, which still, that one leaves me scratching my head because it's not a huge game. And yeah, I don't know. Anyways, we're gonna talk about that here in this video. If you missed any of our coverage talking about game key cards, what is that? I'll try to remember to link something down in the description below, or you could, you know, kind of search it on the channel, because we talked about it in a few different videos in different ways and different angles, and now this one. And so, yeah, basically to catch you guys up to speed, essentially a game key card, I'll just make it kind of more sort of condensed. If you want to see kind of the fuller information, again, check out those videos. But essentially, it's a physical cartridge, but all there is on that cartridge is a license. Now, what's better about this than, like, you know, those downloadable codes in a box like Overwatch 2, I think it was Overwatch 2, or anyways, a couple different games did that with Switch 1, but again, I go back to Overwatch 2 because that's the one that comes to mind. But anyways, what's different about that is yeah, it downloads the game to your console, but the game key card, it's not like a downloadable code where now it's like completely linked to one account. The game key card could be popped into any Switch, meaning you can resell it and everything like that. So it's really nice. So, you know, that in that sense is way better than what they were doing with, like I said, downloadable codes in a box, which makes no sense really, because why don't you just buy the game digitally at that point? But anyways, it's better than that, but it's still not ideal because you don't have the full game on the actual cartridge. Does that make sense? Now, a lot of games actually do that on other consoles, like on PlayStation, on Xbox and stuff. They've done. I think Indiana Jones and the Great Circle did it. A lot of Call of Duty games recently have been doing it. There's another game that I think came out recently, or it's coming out. I'm drawing a blank which one it is. People were talking about it recently, but another game that's actually also doing it as well. And so yeah, so this has been something that other companies have been doing. It's really annoying in my opinion, but it is better than downloadable codes. Now, what is this leak? Well, this leak has to do with essentially the different formats that Nintendo is providing. This is coming from Twitter. I'll throw it up on screen. You guys can take a look. So the tweet says, thanks to leaks from Arc System Works, only 3 types of formats have been revealed for games in development for the Switch 2. DL, which means digital game only, so that means there's no physical version of the game. 64 gigabyte cartridge with the full game, and then codename Potion for the keycard format. So you got, again, digital games only, you got the cartridge with the full game, and then the game key cards. Now, you're probably wondering, well, what does this tell us? Well, this tells us the cartridge is the fact that there's only 64 gigabyte cartridges that are being made available. No 32 gigabyte cartridges. Now, what if a game is smaller than 32 gigabytes, right? Does it make sense to put it on a 64 gigabyte cartridge, which costs more? No, that's the thing. It doesn't. So if, you know, in one sense, people are kind of talking, well, maybe this is why so many games are, third-party developers are opting for game key cards, right? Because if their game is less than 32 gigs and they're forced to pay, you know, the 64 gig cartridges are more expensive, right? It just makes no sense. Then they would probably go for the game key card. So on one hand, there actually is some sort of weight to that. And not having a cheaper card option for developers might explain the surge of game key cards. But on an opposite kind of argument, if you will, there are some games that would need the 64 gig that are not doing it. There's a lot of bigger titles that are just not doing it, and maybe they're not doing it still though, because the 64 gig cartridge is still more costly than just throwing it on a game key card. That is also possible. But some of the games, for example, are like, you know, Yakuza, Split Fiction. I don't even know. I think Split Fiction was over 64 gigs, if I remember right. So I don't even know how that would work. I don't think it would fit on a 64 gig cartridge anyways. Street Fighter 6, of course, is another one. Hitman. Those are just a few. You know, Switch 1 offer 32 gig cartridges. Many developers opted not to use those. So, you know, there's apparently, you know, someone said there's actually only like a handful of games that use 32 gig cartridges on the Switch 1, when like way more could have potentially, you know, used more. So that's kind of interesting to kind of hear. But anyways, the point being is, yeah, could that be a factor? Yeah, it could be, because like, look, even this other angle of saying like, well, you know, yeah, a lot of bigger titles would need the 64 gig. That's true, but still, the game key cards might still be cheaper than that 64 gigabyte cartridge. So there's kind of two categories I'm seeing it as, right? There's the games that are under 32 gigs that it just makes no sense to put it on a 64 gig cartridge if they're not being offered a 32 gig cartridge option, which we don't know for sure, by the way. We don't know. That's not confirmed. These are all leaks and stuff, so we don't know if there are 32 gig cartridges or not for sure. At the time of recording this, it seems unlikely that there are. It seems like it's just 64 gigs for whatever reason, but I don't think it's 100% confirmed. So there's those games, right? Like, I think Bravely Default would fit in that category. I think I can't remember how big it is, but it's under 32 gigs. So that might be one. But then on the other hand, like I said, you got games. First of all, you have games that just are too big, that are bigger than 64 gigs. But then you have games that, you know, yeah, they would fit. They won't fit on a 32 gig. They would fit on a 64, but maybe the game key cards are still cheaper than a 64 gig cartridge. So I don't know. That's just one kind of angle. Could that be why so many games, at least third-party games, are going for, you know, game key cards? Sorry, this is getting really confusing. That's possible. I think it's very, very possible. But again, we don't know, right? We don't know how much does it cost a developer for a game key card, and how much does it cost them for a 64 gig cartridge. We don't know that either. So there's a lot of I don't knows, but this is more of like a, could it be that's the reason why? I think it's very possible, but there's no way to say for sure. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, though. Do you care that much? Again, all the first-party Nintendo stuff it's on a cartridge. Some third-party stuff is going to be on a cartridge, like I said, Cyberpunk 2077 with Phantom Liberty, all in the cartridge. Some other third-party games are doing it as well. Some, you know, but there are a lot that are not. There's a lot that are going for the game keycard option. But you know, like I said, the game keycard option at least is better than a downloadable code. You can still resell it. So I like that about it, but yeah, I don't know. Let me know your thoughts in the comments if you enjoyed this kind of content. Leave a like, subscribe for more. Do a bunch of Nintendo-based content, walkthroughs, guides, news, you name it, we got it. So till the next one, friends. Game on. See you guys later.